Everyone, thank you for joining this session. In this session, I wanted to talk about utilizing secondary sources to help you find information, background information, interpretation of the law, and examination of the law that you are particularly unfamiliar with, and trying to just kind of nail down a little bit more understanding of a topic or an issue. So I'm going to click where it says content types, and then I will click on secondary sources. So this is where you can find all of your secondary sources, the American Law Reports, AmJur, Corpus Juris Secundum, all your text and treatises and law reviews and journals, as well as your secondary sources by jurisdiction, by states, and by topic and practice area. I'm going to click first into Louisiana. And this is where you would find your Louisiana Children's Code Handbook. If you watched the video on staying organized, we saved this into our favorites up at the top. So be sure to go back and watch that video if you haven't watched it yet. But you could search in this database just by running a simple search if you wanted to do that. Or you could also start opening up the database as if you were looking at it in table of contents form, as if you had the book in print in front of you, which sometimes I actually like as an option, just simply because if I don't know a lot about the subject, I may not know exactly what I'm looking for, and I may not know exactly the terminology to type as a search. So I could just start looking here, and I can see in Title 14, it's all about mental health proceedings, rights of minor patients, preliminary provisions, parental admission, protective custody. I could look in and see if any of those might be helpful for me, and so on. So I just wanted to show you this. Again, you could open up each of these different sections to go over and see if there might be anything that is helpful for you. I want to go back to secondary sources to the main screen. And a couple of places that I want to take you to are the American Law Reports. And you'll see here all of the ones that are broken down by volume, or you could search within all of ALR. So if your topic isn't here, you can search in the entire database. So I have a search here: mental competence, identifying different causes for children to be found not competent. And so I am going to click search just to see what ALR brings up, to see if there's anything that might be useful for me here. And again, if this is your first time researching an issue, you might want to just simply enter in a simple natural language search. I can see here that I got over 10,000 documents, so it's quite a bit, but I could just kind of look through each of the titles of the articles, at least at the first maybe 10 to 20, to see if any of these might be useful. Here we go: mental condition as affecting the competency of witness, psychologist, competency to stand trial, modern cases. And again, you can kind of look through the titles of the articles to see. And here we have witness, child competency, statutes. You could add something else to the search if you wanted to do that, if you feel like there's something else that might be there that you need to add in. So maybe there's like a particular health condition, and you want to see if any of these 10,000 articles in ALR also reference a health condition. And so here we have mental condition affecting the competency of the witness, present sanity, privilege, competency to stand trial, schizophrenia, psychopaths, parents' mental illness. So you can kind of go through to see how you can work your search, starting with a broad search like I did, and then add something else that might be helpful to your research to narrow the list from 10,000 that I got down to 289. So again, that's one database that I also think is helpful outside of the Louisiana Children's Code Handbook. I will go back to secondary sources, and then the other databases that you can try that I think would be useful for you would be American Jurisprudence Second. So that is absolutely your benchmark encyclopedia, covers all jurisdictions, all practice areas. And then Corpus Juris Secundum, another great secondary source that could be useful in your research. And again, each database might have different information. And so you can see here that this is broken down very similarly to other secondary sources. This is broken down by topic. So I could scroll here to see if there's anything specific on mental health, perhaps. Yep, there's a whole section on mental health, mental competency proceedings. And I could keep just breaking things down here to see if there's anything that might be useful. So that is also one way to look through. There might be something specific on juveniles or children. Sometimes you might see children called infants, even though we're not talking about babies. We might be talking about, 10-year-olds or 13-year-olds. So again, here we have, well, children out of wedlock, a different issue. I could go down and see if maybe it's under infants, perhaps. And here we have it, infants. So I might want to take a look at that, crimes and prosecutions, and start opening up these chapters to see rights and defenses of juveniles, waiver of rights, notice to parents, presumptions as to capacity and responsibility. So you can see that just simply opening up the database, while it took me a few clicks, I might have been just typing in that same search, mental capacity of children over and over again, but they might have been called youthful offender statutes, juveniles. So again, this teaches you the language of the practice area that you're researching. And that's why I like searching in different secondary sources, and those might be helpful. Again, I could go into this section and then add this whole section to my favorites, like I did the other sections in my children's code, the criminal code, and so on. So now I have all of this saved up top in my favorites, and I can come back and search this at any time that I need to. And so here is the in general, which is the CJS, infants, and crimes section. So that is utilizing secondary sources to help you expand your research and find additional information. And hopefully some of these articles will obviously lead you to cases when you're researching. And while CJS, AMJUR, and ALR particularly may reference cases outside of your jurisdiction, so here's perhaps an article talking about capacity and responsibility. And if I start going through the footnotes, you might be thinking, well, Anna, these aren't going to be helpful. That's from Kansas, New York, Missouri, Oklahoma. There's nothing really here about Louisiana. But I'm going to show you in just a moment how I can use one of these cases to try and find other cases. So stay tuned for that, and I'll be back shortly.